and I mentioned this a couple times. I don't remember where we landed on it. I like the idea of a cop following him in.
Hmm.
And maybe
Yeah.
taking a different route into the building so that they have their own experiences before coming back together. But, like, do you think he knows the cop beforehand?
I think it is um, almost like a wellness check sort of type
Mm.
situation,
Okay.
because it is like it could be like, if we want to give the cop more of like a connection to him, it could be the cop that he talked to after his parents were murdered, like that after that incident. So they have this weird sort of like semi like parental relationship,
Yeah.
and
No,
he's
I
a little
love
bit
that.
older. Yeah.
I love that. I wrote a cop very briefly.
Mhm.
Do you want me to tell you them and we decide whether we want to keep it or not?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I wrote her originally as early in her career. That would not be the case if we're going by the backstory we just established, which I really
Mhm.
like. But I have Anna Watanabe, um, and I had her as early in her career as kind of like
Mhm.
naive and fumbling or bumbling. But I think maybe at this point it's more just like out of her element is maybe the best way
Mhm.
to frame is that she's not incompetent and like I'm not trying to do
Yeah.
propaganda here, but it's like not she's not like a bad cop. She's just
Yeah.
like this is not the environment. Like she's a small town cop who actually has the best interests of people in heart in mind, and
Yeah.
we get immediate confirmation of this because of her relationship with Aaron, which I actually think helps shoe
Mhm.
some of the doubts that I would have writing a police character. But yeah, she is a competent police officer, but she is not competent in this situation because this situation is wildly out of any experience she would have had
Yeah.
before. Um, I I think one thing I did have was that she is not good in stressful situations. Like she is a very competent law enforcement agent.
Mhm.
She is not good at responding to what's the word I'm looking for? Moments of chaos, moments of
Yeah.
like just really high intensity situations. So like she's
Yeah.
not the one that you throw at a shooting. She's the one that you
Mm.
give to the victim after the fact,
Yeah.
which I like. Um, and then yeah, I was gonna say that I said she follows Aaron into the mall in hopes of arresting him, but I
Mhm.
think what you said makes more sense. She maybe it's that Aaron and her have a more communicative relationship, and then
Yeah.
recently they've stopped communicating, and she's worried about that. So she checks in with
Mhm.
people. A lot of people say, yeah, he's been talking a lot about the mall. That sets off an alarm in her mind because
Mhm.
obviously they both know what happened at the mall. And when she finally catches up with him, once she learns what's happening, it's like seconds too late. Like she watches him go through that first
Mhm.
window and watches the window closed behind or whatever is restricted in some way
Yeah.
and goes, all right, got to find another way into the mall. And that's how she enters
Mhm.
the narrative. That's that's what I like.
Yeah.
I like her. All right.
Ooh, I
And
haven't.
again, we can kill
Sorry,
her, but
I just got an idea of like how to like introduce her would
sure.
be like, if it's like something from above, and then as he's trying to get out, the rope snaps. He falls back and he sees two eyes peering down at him, and then he hits his head and he's like knocked out.
Knocked out. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so we're saying that we get a couple chapters into the story before
Mhm.
we show that, and then maybe we backpedal, perspective shift.
Mhm.
We see a little bit more time in the town from her perspective, and then we see the inverse of the scene we saw earlier, where she's looking down at him. We suddenly go,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's who the eyes was," and then maybe after
Mhm.
that little recontextualization, we snap back to his perspective and are more prepared for him to see her later.
Yeah, because
Are we telling this story in the
honestly,
third
we.
person or the first person?
Hmm.
That's an interesting little moment,
You know,
little note.
I'm thinking about it. If you do want to do like a perspective shift thing, something that I love to do is either do a tense shift or a perspective shift.
Sure.
So it could be like third person omniscient is one view, and then first person is another view, like from another character. So the reader knows immediately, like, okay, this is this character's perspective now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I don't know if you remember, because it's been a while, but what I did with Cold Bodies was when he
Mm-hmm.
was like the cold body. It was I believe it was present tense,
Mm-hmm.
and then like the real person, like
Mm-hmm.
the protagonist, before you realize they're the same person,
Mm-hmm.
is written in like past tense
Yeah.
sort of thing. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
do recall that. And I think that really works. Honestly, in the same vein, in the sequel series to Percy Jackson, the Heroes of Olympus series, when they introduced the character
Mm.
of Jason, I believe Jason was written in the third person, and Percy was continued to be written in the first person like he was in the original series,
Mm.
which was a very fascinating way, especially in the third book when they finally did actually intersect. It
Yeah.
would, between chapters, go between third person descriptions of Jason, first person descriptions of
Okay.
Percy. Um, so it might have believed that Aaron would be first person and Anna would be third.
Yeah, probably,
I think that
because
makes
then
sense.
that's more like the psychological horror is in his mind mostly.
Yeah.
Um,
It's easier to kill Anna. I don't know why I want to kill her so
yeah.
bad. I just feel like I want to for stakes, but it's easier to kill her if she's in third person.
But yeah, no, and especially like if, especially like I guess this is kind of superficial, but because they're both like she's a female cop and it was his mother that he saw and it's
Mm-hmm.
his aunt that he lives with, he
Mm.
like all of the female like influences in his life are the people that he's most afraid of losing.
Sure. I
And
don't think
he
that's superficial at all. I think that's actually a really strong connection that I hadn't even
Mhm,
considered. No, that's great.
mhm.
Yeah. He
Yeah, and
really values these female people, these women in
and
his
that
life. Yeah.
yeah, that could be influenced the way that like Skylar,
Sure.
the mall goth,
Yeah.
like how their relationship is.
Then
Like, yeah,
let me,
oh,
can I
yeah,
elaborate on that? What if
yeah,
Skylar is younger than Aaron? I imagine, I'm imagining like a high
mm,
schooler, like a 19-year-old almost, or I guess high
yeah,
schooler would be like 17, 18-year-old. But and
mm,
so Aaron maybe takes on a more protective role of her before, because I guess she's
mm.
already kind of dead. Is that what we were? We need to figure out what's
Yeah.
happening
I think
there.
the way
But
that like
yeah.
the spirit people that are a part of it
Mm-hmm.
are um are like it could be either that they are people who have died in here that are reanimated like
Mm-hmm.
through like by being close between the bridges of the real and fake worlds, like it's their souls
Yeah.
sort of in there.
Maybe separated from
um
their own shells. Like,
yeah, yeah,
wait, there's something there too. We can come back to that, but
yeah,
let's come back to that.
hmm,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So to my earlier point, Skylar as a high schooler,
mhm,
Aaron as a man in his early 20s.
mhm,
He takes on a protective role of her, not just because she's a woman,
mhm,
but also because like the space that she occupies and maybe certain elements of her personality are
mhm,
relatable to him in a very personal way, and in a
mhm.
very we keep doing this, but in a very Silent Hill kind of,
Yeah,
Maria and Mary kind of thing.
mhm,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
there is a, and I don't want to, I don't even want it to be like that dramatic as it is presented in Silent Hill 2, but
yeah,
like there is that through line of like I'm trying to help you because I couldn't help them, you know?
hmm,
Yeah.
yeah,
I like that. I really like that. We're
hmm,
in a good spot. Okay,
yeah,
so we've got the first couple chapters now at this point. Introduction. Aaron goes to the mall. Aaron explores the mall a little bit. We should maybe nail down what actually happens that first initial exploration a little bit, but we'll come back. Um,
mhm,
End of chapter, I guess 3. He tries to
mhm,
escape. Rope snaps. Sees Anna in a brief flash that is
yeah,
recontextualized later. Chapter 4. Flashback, not flashback. Step back on his perspective,
yeah,
third person. We see what
mhm,
her doing a brief stint around the town, trying to find out what's happening, coming to the mall. Fourth chapter ends with her seeing the inverse of what we already saw. Fifth chapter, we come
mhm,
back to Aaron. But before we even talk about that, let's talk about his first experience in the mall. Because I don't think he meets Skylar immediately. I think that comes later.
yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you I've thrown out a couple spooky kind of qualities of the mall, but what do you think is like the best way to introduce what this mall is going to be, what the setting is
Hmm.
going to be in like a contained sense, just a sample.
Yeah. I think that what happens is that he goes back to that store that the like the murders happened at, and it could be like it was like renovated and it's like a different thing before it was shut down. But when he walks in, he starts to like visualize like this is where the counter was. That's where I made eye contact with with the killer or whatever. It could be that, like, honestly, I think that the eyes could be the killer and like that
maybe
image
a little
of like
bit of
seeing
both.
the mob.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I think that it maybe even it doesn't even start as so much as like he's getting like some kind of physical manifestation. He's just thinking about it. But as he's pacing around this location, and I do like the idea of like it got changed into something so innocuous, like it's like a crumble cookie or some, like maybe not that. That's actually a little, maybe not that, but something. He's walking around the location, and that is the first time, as he's thinking about his mom, as he's thinking about the robber, that is the first time he notices the footsteps. He walks out of the store, he goes, hello? Hello? Once he's standing still, he doesn't hear anything. Keeps looking around, keeps hearing it. It's kind of fucking with him, and then I think there needs to be some amping up. He needs to encounter something. Maybe he sees his first eye.
What I'm imagining is that, like, as he's like remembering all this stuff, he sees a physical manifestation of like the killer, but he can't see the eyes on it. Like it's fully obscured, and then he like sees the gun, and then like there's the first hole like appears like in his hand or his arm or something of like where he imagines getting shot, and that's why like he like immediately runs over to the rope and tries to climb out, and like maybe in his hassle it snags like a broken piece of glass and snaps, and that's why like that happens.
So maybe even that first time he doesn't even think that there's anything supernatural happening. He just kind of thinks he's been shot, essentially. Okay, cool. So okay.
And over the course of the story, it could form into like more of like the boil than a gunshot.
But maybe it. No. I think that's totally fair. But I think initially, the logic part of his brain is like, well, nothing else makes sense, so I must have been shot or attacked or whatever. When you envision the robber, have you been envisioning them with a mask the whole time? Because that like really brings attention to the eyes, I think. And also it brings a great question of who was it? Will I find out who it was? And
I do like the idea of it literally like we never learn like the actual identity of the robber. It is something. It is like the robber himself is not what's important. It's like what he did to like the main character's psyche, I guess, is like important to the horror of this story.
I totally agree. Robber long gone, totally just and that and not to get away from the actual narrative itself, but that's again what I love about kind of Lovecraftian horror is that a lot of the times stuff that would become like in like a true crime thriller, like a like it would be someone in a lot of other movies. In Lovecraftian horror, it's just like, we just needed there to be a reason for this person to be here, and it sucks that it's so tragic and scary for them. But like, no, do you think the robber was in league with a god? No, he just was. He just killed someone for money. I don't know. No, I think that's great. I don't think we have to know who the robber is, and I think that there's a world where we pay attention to that, where Aaron is desperate to know the identity, and it is that element of him is used against him as another form of psychological, torture. It's like, you'll never know. I'm gonna keep you guessing. But I also think it could just be something that is just left in the dark and we don't even address. I think both of them could be equally effective, honestly.
I just wrote this down because I have like I'm like envisioning it like it's like instead of a jewelry store, it's like a, I don't know, like a place that sells earrings or something. So it has like mirrors around, and he like, as he looks into one of the mirrors, he sees the eyes of the robber. He turns around, and the eyes, like, he doesn't see them, and then he gets shot, because they are two separate entities,
Right.
and that is but
So,
he doesn't realize that at the beginning. He just
To clarify, do you mean he turns around and sees nothing and then gets shot, or he turns around and sees the robber and the robber has no eyes?
That's kind of what I envision.
The second one?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
Either like literally the vision of it has no eyes, like they're just gone, or he's like fully cased in shadow, and it just looks generally like the figure of that robber that like shoots him.
Which one of those is better? I like them both, but sometimes you ever write something or you ever conceptualize something and you go, that's horror trying to be horror. That's something being scary for scariness' sake. I almost like the robber being in shadow more than the robber having blatantly like horrific or I guess lack of features in a horrifying way. I think we keep him in shadow because it accomplishes the same thing of the most familiar element of the memory being gone without it. So, because I still like the idea of like for the first little bit, Aaron doesn't realize something supernatural is happening and just thinks he's having like a traumatic reaction, and also I guess there's a murderer still there, but okay, cool. So that's his first interaction. It ends with he gets quote unquote shot. Or you said hand. I think that works too because it's very like you can just always check it. It's like almost a clock for where he's at in his adventure. Runs, tries to get out of there, has a whole like I like to imagine that like the way that it is written, or rather the way it's framed, or however, it feels like you keep waiting for the next thing to happen, or rather maybe even Aaron's waiting for the next thing to happen. He thinks he's gonna feel that second gunshot. He's gonna see another person around a corner, and he's just waiting for it, but it doesn't happen. He climbs up that rope. He gets like halfway up. He's like, whew, and then he falls. And then he falls.
And sorry, he's running away, and he thinks that he's being chased because he hears the second set of footsteps.
Yes.
That is himself.
Perfect. No, that's perfect. Yeah. That's awesome. No, that's perfect. And again, like he kind of is. He's being chased by himself, but it's different. It's not what he thinks is chasing him. It's not who he thinks is chasing him. That's perfect. That is so perfect. Okay.